All right. Hey, welcome into this Saturday edition of the Detroit Lions versus the Colts pregame warm-up breakdown show. And yeah, we're going to break it all down for you and kind of get you guys the goodies of what I've seen over the last couple of days, breaking down both of these teams. I think that we have a bigger matchup than some are leading on to believe here. And let's just pump the brakes just for a second here on these Colts, because they do some things well. They do some things not so well. But they also have a quarterback that, I mean, he can hurt you. So I think that it takes a little bit of a different conversation here to see, just how this game may play out. But let's give it a shot. Here we go. The Lions 9-1, tied for the second best record in the NFL right now, while leading the NFC North and the NFC Conference each by a game. The Lions do hold a one-game lead over the 8-2 Eagles and Vikings. And right now, this game tomorrow, it is paving the way for the Lions to earn a first-round bye in the playoffs this season, should they extend that win and that win streak tomorrow versus the Colts. A win would mean a clean sweep of the AFC South, following wins against the Texans, the Titans, and the most recent blowout of the Jags. The Colts would complete the circle for the Lions. Now, like I said to start, some analysts, including myself, are taking a deeper look or a closer look at this game versus the Colts. Now, they haven't really been as bad as their record may say. They have only lost 3 games by 3 points or less, 2 games by 7 points or less, and only 2 games in double digits that were both 10 points or less. That's it. It's not terrible. Like, they've had some pretty damn good games, really close games, and also some upsets. I mean, let's be real here. Week 4, they upset the Steelers. Now, last week, they upset the Jets. I don't think a lot of us are very high on the Jets, but mathematically, and what was out there as far as betting, odds and props and all that, that was an upset. I think that the bigger point of emphasis, though, is that the Colts narrowly lost to the Texans twice this season. Both games decided by 3 points or less, and they honestly had opportunities to win both of those games had their defense really stepped up. So it's not so much the offense. It's not so much whether it's Anthony Richardson or, how he's commanding the offense or the fact that he walked away from a game, but you get what I'm saying. This team can win. This team can play you very, very tough. So look, how good are these teams right now? Let's take a look at the ESPN matchmaker as well as the stat sheet, and let's get an idea of what they're saying and what they see, and then we'll be right back. So as far as the matchmaker, ESPN preview here, the Detroit Lions are favored by 7.5 points in this matchup. Over under is 50.5 for this game. And the matchup predictor has the Lions as a 73.6% favorite overall. Do I agree? I agree. Do I feel like it's going to be, a 20, 30 point win? I'm not so sure about that. Do I think that the Colts could cover the 7.5 points? Based on what I've seen so far, you would have to tell me that the Lions are better than every single team that they have faced, and by a wide margin, for them not to be able to cover 7.5 points. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just putting it out there that anything is possible. We know that, number one. Number two, I don't think that we can really discredit the Colts right now just because of Anthony Richardson and some of the issues that he has had. This is still a pretty solid team. Anyway, looking below here, if you want to go through the injury report real quick, Emmanuel Mosley, Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Alex Anzalone still on the report, of which Mosley, Melifonwu, and Anzalone are on IR. Terrion Arnold highly likely to miss tomorrow's game with a groin injury. Rakestraw has already been ruled out. On the other side for the Colts, everybody is out or on IR. Tyquan Lewis, Bernhard Raymond, and Ryan Kelly is also Trevor Denbo and Jalen Carley. So, I mean, none of these are real big surprises here. They've been out. So nothing real interesting here. Now, as far as stats, the Detroit Lions right now are putting up 33.6 points per game. On the other side, the Colts are putting up 21.5 points per game. Defensively, though, the Lions are only allowing 17.7 points per game, whereas the Colts are allowing 22.7 points per game. So it's clearly in the Lions' favor. You know, even if the Lions were to just put up their averages right now and allow their averages, this is a, 34 to 18 point victory. That's what we see. Yards per rush. I mean, this doesn't really define what the Lions are doing. But when you have two running backs that are splitting the carries, your rush yards allowed, or your rush yards per rush, is going to be a little bit lower. So Lions at 4.7, which is good enough for 8th in the league, and the Colts at 4.5. Now, on the other side, our defense, they are allowing 4.3 yards per rush, which doesn't make any sense to me because we are, like the second or third best defense in the league at stopping the run. Yards per rush allowed on the Colts side at 4.4. So fairly even with what these defenses are allowing per rush. Now, yards per pass attempt. This is where things start to really separate. The Lions are first in the league at 9.2. The Colts, little less than halfway or a little less than midway, through the league here at 18th in the league, 7.2 yards per pass attempt. Yards per pass attempt allowed, though, defensively, Lions at 10th, 6.3 yards per pass allowed. And on the Colts side, 7.1. The next few things that I'm going to highlight here, ESPN pass rush win rate. This is a big one that I think a lot of us really enjoy watching from week to week. Lions, better than half the league here at 14th, 42%. But just on the other side of the ball here, it's only 3% that separate us from the Colts at 39%. So they're doing fairly well, winning their pass rush, but now they're going up against, the most elite offensive line in the league. Turnover differential, this is a big one. Lions at +9 to the Colts -1. The Colts are just not getting their hands on the football. Another big one here, defensive third down conversion rate. Lions are first. They're only allowing a third down conversion every, 3 or 4 tries. So it's crazy to me that the Lions defense has really stepped up in a big way this year, leaps and bounds over what they did last season. And even last season, they were playing pretty well. On the other side, though, the Colts, they're allowing a third down conversion rate on 43.1% of tries. Red zone success rate, again, this is another big one. The Lions are able to convert in the red zone on 68% of tries, whereas the Colts right around 55.8%. And defensive red zone success rate, Lions are tied for third. They are only allowing 42.8% of tries from the red zone to convert for points. And on the other side for the Colts, 57.5% of the time they are allowing their opponent to put up some points. All right, let's get into the rest of this here. Let's start with some Jared Goff. So Jared Goff has been an absolute hot topic for weeks now. And I'm not surprised. I mean, the guy's playing at such a high level. He's been playing like a god right now. Let's just be real. I mean, his numbers out of control. We just have to hope and pray here that continues well into February. Hopefully into March, to be honest with you, because we want to get through February with a win. Jared Goff has arguably never looked better inside or even more comfortable inside of an offensive scheme other than what Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell have put together along with Mark Brunell and others for Jared Goff. I mean, he's been absolute surgical in what he does. For instance, he's connected on 197 out of 270 completions. Let me say that again. He's connected 197 times out of 270 attempts, which gives him a blistering 73% completion rate. That's just incredible. He complements his accuracy with 2,492 passing yards so far this season. Now, you would say that it seems a little low. Well, I would say it's only a little low against the teams that have played one extra game, number one. And number two, I think you have to keep in mind that when you have two dynamic running backs and you're more well-balanced, you're not going to be putting up the ball as often. It's really not needed. So if you're continuing to run the ball, you're going to have less pass yards. No doubt in my mind that Jared Goff breaks, 4,500 yards a season. I think he'll get there. 20 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Now let's keep this in mind. He had 4 interceptions before the Texans game. He had 9 interceptions after the Texans game. He had 1 bad game. Jared Goff protects the ball, in my opinion, better than most quarterbacks do in the league. And you get a lot of flack for when he dirts the ball, and he throws the ball at somebody's feet. That is usually by design a 99% of the time. And he's doing that so that he doesn't throw an interception. He's doing that so that, he doesn't create a turnover. And if he were to do that, then you're going to get on him for that too. So just let the man dirt the ball and move on. We're still scoring points, right? We're still moving the ball down the field. He dirted the ball last week, but we went 7 for 7 or scored touchdowns in the first 7, tries. So, you can't have it all, right? You can't be perfect on everything, and nor should we expect him to be perfect on everything. The dude's winning games, and his numbers are incredible, and we'll just leave it alone at that. Now, Goff, like I said, he takes care of the football. In my opinion, should be in the MVP race right now. I think that he's in the top 3. You've probably got Allen in there and Lamar in there, but he definitely belongs in this MVP race. Had he not had those 5 interceptions, I think that he'd be the clear winner, without a doubt. Week 11. Now, if you were to record something like this and put it on, Facebook or TikTok or something as a class, what he did in week 11 was a masterclass. Flawless execution, marked by a perfect 158.3 passer rating and completing 24 of 29 passes, 412 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 0 sacks. Now, this performance made Jared Goff the first player in NFL history to record multiple games with at least 400 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating. Don't forget he had a perfect game in the mix too. Now he has 39 career games with at least 300 passing yards. Now get this. If Jared Goff has another performance like that tomorrow, now I'm not saying that it's needed. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But should Jared Goff put up 300 yards tomorrow, he would join a very elite company as the 5th quarterback in NFL history with 40 games of 300 plus passing yards in their first 9 seasons. Now, he doesn't have to do it tomorrow. He still has a few games left on this season that he can throw for 300 and get it done. But this is a very, very short list of people that have done it. And these legends are nothing short of legends. Let me give you the list here. So Patrick Mahomes is on top of the list with 46 games. Then you have Dan Marino with 41, Matt Ryan with 41, Peyton Manning in 4th place with 40 games. By the way, Dan Marino and Peyton Manning are Hall of Famers, and I do expect Matt Ryan to join that list as well. Then Jared Goff right now is in 5th place with 39 games. So he just needs one more 300-yard game to get it done, and I do expect it'll happen this season. Now, again, I don't think that we really need to get into all the other stats right now because there's a ton of stats out there. But this Lions offense is scalding hot. Just absolutely scalding hot. And they are either at, near, or above top 5 in just about every measurement, every metric, every analytic, every KPI that you can think of offensively. They're doing it. But I'll give you a few. Lions are 4th in passing TDs, 2nd in passer rating, 1st in first down percentage, 1st in explosive plays over 20 yards, and tied for 3rd in explosive plays over 40 yards. Now, for all the haters out there that think that Jared Goff can't throw the ball deep or doesn't throw the ball deep, let me say that again. He is 1st in explosive plays over 20 plus yards and tied for 3rd in explosive plays over 40 plus yards. You can't deny the stats. I'm sorry. There's still going to be somebody in the comments that's going to say, well, Jared, no, that's the truth, buddy. 4th fewest sacks given up and 1st in completion percentage so far on the season. Now, the list truly goes on. Like I said, the Lions have also smashed well over 40 franchise records and more than a dozen NFL records this season. So incredible what they have done so far. Jared Goff is, in his stats and everything that he has done, is completely out of this world. And now he's going up against the Colts secondary tomorrow that really has kind of two different stories. Which one's going to show up? I think that's the question. So next up, let's highlight the Colts secondary and let's see what we're working with here. So first up, we'll talk about Jalen Jones and Samuel Womack. Now, they both have been solid. Not great so far, but they've been solid. Now, Jones saw a larger role after Juju Brents went down in the home opener against the Texans, as he now takes on, the opponent's number one wide receiver mostly in each game. He's gone up against a pretty good list of receivers this season. Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, George Pickens, and others. He's allowing some chunk plays. And at 7.9 yards per target, it's kind of survivable production, if you will. It's not the production that you want to see out of your number one corner. But the Colts are kind of operating at this bend but don't break style of defense right now. And it's just not benefiting the corners. It's just not benefiting the defense, to be honest with you. Jones also has 2 interceptions, 9 pass breakups. And look, he's physical against the run game. He has some physical run stops, and he's doing pretty well. But again, it's not what you want to see out of your number one going up against now the best offense in the league tomorrow. And then there's Womack. Now, Womack honestly has posted better numbers than Jones, but he's also playing a heck of a lot less than Jones. He's kind of the cornerback that the Colts sub out in base settings, so he's in there probably 55% of the time. He's given up just around 5 yards per target while allowing opponents to complete only 38% of passes. He just isn't making many plays, but he's had definitely held his own. And he was also a waiver claim pickup, by the way. So great job by the Colts picking this dude up. So what did Justin Jefferson do against Jones? And I don't know anyone that's gone up against Justin Jefferson that really hasn't had a bad day. And there's very few and far between times that Jefferson has a bad day at the office. According to stats that I pulled together, Justin Jefferson put up 137 yards and 7 catches against Jones in week 9, but he was also held out of the end zone. So a game that the Colts almost won. Now they lost by 7 in this game, 13-21. Offense just really couldn't get rolling in week 9. And anyway, the defense, holding the Vikings to 21 points, that's a win. That's an absolute win. But what I'll say here is Jones kept Jefferson out of the end zone, and that's also a win. Stephon Diggs. Now, Stephon Diggs put up 2 scores on only 33 yards in the opener to start the season. Now, Diggs was really a non-factor, I kind of feel like, in the first meeting. Now, I wouldn't say 2 touchdowns is a non-factor because it's absolutely a factor, but 33 yards, not a ton of production. I feel that it's Nico Collins that is really doing the most of the damage here. Without Collins in the second meeting, though, Diggs did put up 81 yards on 5 receptions, but again, held out of the end zone. So Jones did a good job. And then there's George Pickens, who's the last one I'll highlight in, I can't remember which week it was just a few weeks ago. He put up 113 yards on 7 receptions, but he too held to 0 TDs. So there's something going on here where they're able to get some production and then teams are just going a different direction, or Jones is really playing, some shutdown football and not allowing these guys to work within the red zone. Tyreek Hill, I'm really not going to highlight him because he didn't have Tua in that game. Now, keep in mind, the Colts have been without Tyquan Lewis and Juju Brents for the majority of the season. I think that they're possibly going to get Tyquan Lewis back maybe the end of the month. I can't remember. And then, I just can't remember. I'm not real sure if they're going to get him back. I'm definitely not expecting it for tomorrow's game. But either way, I guess what I'm saying here is without Tyquan Lewis, without Juju Brents, the Colts defense is definitely missing a couple of good pieces. So you can't fully blame, what the Colts defense has been doing, just on the corner. So it takes a complete team to win. I think we know that as Lions, especially with what we've seen with injuries. The Colts secondary has allowed a passer rating over 104 now through six games this season. They do let up the 5th most yards, averaging 248 per game, and the 11 yards per reception, and the 10th most explosive plays, over 20 plus, and 2nd most over 40 plus per game. I think that is a huge number for the Lions to take advantage of. Again, I'm not expecting the Lions to not have a solid day through the air, but I'm also expecting that they're not going to have to put it up a ton. And once, the ground game gets rolling and the play action gets rolling, I feel like the Lions just have too many different weapons, and stylistically they can do pretty much whatever they want to do when everything is working together. Now, if the Colts throw a wrinkle in this and they start taking some things away, then you might see us, pass the ball a little bit more. But I'm really just not expecting that from the defense of the Colts to really give us much of a problem. But with that said, I am expecting a couple of deep shots. I mean, you just heard it, right? I mean, they are 10th most explosive plays, over 20, and 2nd most over 40. And we have a guy by the name of Jamison Williams that can get deep. We have a guy by the name of Khalif Raymond that can get deep. Hell, Sam Laporta will catch a 52-yard bomb. And then you got Jahmyr Gibbs. If you want to utilize him in the pass game, he can get deep on you too. So I do believe that we'll see some deep shots. I don't think it's going to be needed, but I think it's going to be there. And what I mean by that is I think the Lions are probably going to target throws over 15 yards a little bit more often in this game because it's there. The Colts have kind of had an issue protecting the deep third of the field, and that's where the Lions are really going to be able to live, eat, and breathe in this game, whether it's Sam Laporta, deep crossers, Amon-Ra St. Brown and J-Mo deep crossers, or even Tim Patrick. I expect Tim Patrick to have a few catches in this game. I think that he's going to find some opportunity, either down the sideline or in a deep crosser route where he kind of likes to catch the ball. So I think it's going to be there for these guys, and I am expecting a few big chunk plays out of this game. I expect Amon-Ra to get his 100 quietly. I expect Sam Laporta to be a key figure in this game. The Colts have kind of had some issues with tight ends. I mean, they haven't given up a huge game against tight ends, but I think that they kind of give up, yards against good tight ends when they face them. And so I expect Laporta to have at least 50 yards in this game in a TD. Overall, I think that 7 Detroit Lions have probably touched the ball in the pass game. I think that Jared Goff is just kind of feed the ball around. I think he's going to have this game wide open. 70% completion rate. I wouldn't be scared of that tomorrow. I think that could be done too. Do I see 300 tomorrow? Hey, they're giving up 248. We're averaging way over that. I think the Lions can get it done. But again, are they trying to break records or are they trying to win games? I think the Lions are trying to win games. So I'm going to go 275 yards for Jared Goff. I hope you surprise me. Goff. I want to be wrong. So I'm going to go on the under of 300, even though I just said I think it could happen. Next up, Lions running backs. So Lions will be highlighting 2 of the best running back duos in the league, or the best running back duo in the league, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Now, these 2 are the heartbeat of the Detroit Lions offense, and the Colts defensive game plan likely emphasizes that. They're going to want to take these guys out of the game as much as possible. Now, while Goff, St. Brown, Williams, and Sam Laporta are absolutely fantastic at what they do, Gibbs and Montgomery are essential in opening up the play action and the passing scheme to get this Lions offense rolling and the momentum going in the right direction. Now, David Montgomery is averaging 4.3 yards per carry, 10 TDs on the ground, and 3.24 yards after contact. He also has added 41 first downs this season, and that's why that 3.24 yards after contact is so big. Now, in the passing game, Demo is seeing about 2 targets a game, so not a ton, but he's catching 96% of them. So whatever he gets thrown to, he catches. 9.8 yards per catch. That is a big number for a running back. But he's also been held for 0 TDs so far through the air. That could change tomorrow. We'll see. Then you have Jahmyr Gibbs, who has absolutely bursted onto the scene in 2024. He had a stellar rookie season. Just a game away from getting 1,000 yards last season. But he's well on his way to smashing 1,000 and could potentially be on his way to about a 1,400 yard year. He is averaging a league leading 6 yards per carry. He has 8 TDs, 3.21 yards after contact, and he has also put up 34 first downs for the Lions this season. He's averaging 3 targets through the air per game, 80% catch rate, 11 yards per catch, which, again, sizzling, just incredible. Only 1 TD through the air this season. But again, if he's only averaged, about 30 targets on the year so far, that's not terrible for him. Gibbs has that breakaway run potential, though. And so does Demo. I'm not going to slight Demo at all. I love Demo. But Gibbs definitely has that breakaway run potential. And get this, 42.5% of attempts compared to some of the other league-leading running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs can break away on 42.5% of his attempts. Now, I pulled up a few numbers. Derrick Henry was the only one that I found that was better. At 46.8% of attempts, he can break away. Barkley, 40.9%. Josh Jacobs, 24.6%. Bijan Robinson, 22.1%. And Joe Mixon, 33.5%. Lions really got lucky taking him at number 12, didn't they? We have seen Joe Mixon go for 159 and 102 yards, respectively, in his 2 matchups against the Colts this season. Tank Bigsby went for 101, and Josh Jacobs smashed him with 151 yards on the ground. So I believe that there's really no reason that the Lions can't have an incredible day on the ground. I mean, this Lions duo of Sonic and Knuckles won't put up, if they don't put up at least 150 yards, I'd be surprised. But I don't think they're going to push 200 like some people have thought. And I even heard a Colts podcast the other day said that the Lions are going to put up 300 yards rushing. I was like, whoa, hey, maybe it happens, but I don't see it. No way. Here's what I'm thinking. I think that Gibbs will get 100. I think that's possible. And I think Monty will back him up with 70. So 150 to 170 yards, that's kind of where I'm at. Both backs find the end zone in this game, I think, without a doubt. Now, what do they have to get through? What are the Lions contending with? How difficult is it going to be to run the ball or, anything else, pass the ball even? Well, they're going to have to go through the Colts defensive line. And I think the Colts will have their work cut out to really disrupt what this offense is going to do. And I emphasize is going to do, not if they're going to do it. They are going to do it. But I do believe that this Colts defense, they're going to have a tough time trying to disrupt Goff. If they want any sort of an opportunity in this game to stay close, I feel like the pressure is going to have to come from the interior of the Colts defense. And that really begins with DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart. I mean, these guys playing at a high level right now. I mean, they're 2 of the better defensive linemen in the league. This might be the best defensive line duo that the Lions have faced all season. And I think Dan Campbell even made a mention to that the other day. Now, this duo has 19 and 13 pressures apiece per Pro Football Focus. Now, if they can create havoc in Goff's face, it will force, Goff to have to make quicker decisions and possible, errant throw here or there. But I just don't see Goff making a mistake with the football. He's been so calm back there in making his decisions. You might see him run, here or there, and he looks a little herky-jerky, or it looks like it's out of control, but he's always in control. And that's what I love about Jared Goff. He never seems to get rattled. Even when he takes a big hit, he never seems to be rattled. Now, as far as pressure, at least from the edge standpoint, they have a couple of capable pass rushers that rank 18th in pressure percentage on the season. They are tied for 15th in sacks, 18th in PFF pass rush grade, and 21st in pass rush win rate. So Deo Odeingbo has 30 pressures on the season, and Laiatu Latu has 26 pressures on the season, and then Kwity Paye drops in 25 pressures on the season. Now, these guys will have to focus on finishing plays with Goff sacked if they want to have any sort of an opportunity in this game. You can't get pressure on Jared Goff and let him get rid of the ball. That's where he does his business. Now, it won't be easy, right? Since the Lions have an elite offensive line that has only allowed 18 sacks this entire season through 10 games. We'll see if the Colts DC, Gus Bradley and Charlie Partridge, their defensive line coach, could have this unit ready to go and at the top of their game versus the Detroit Lions. But if Indianapolis in their defensive front doesn't show up, and if their defensive line does show up and their linebackers, EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin can kind of limit what Gibbs and Montgomery are doing, and at least their impact, and then forcing Goff to have to throw the ball, it will give them a realistic chance. But the problem is nobody has been able to really figure out the Lions so far. No one has really figured out how to stop the Lions. The Texans almost did, and even then we came back. It's almost like when the opponent goes left, the Lions go right. When the opponent comes forward, we just go up top, right? And the Lions are just so versatile. And the way that they, have complicated everything, it's made it really difficult for defenses to figure it out. Next, let's talk about the Colts offense. This is where things get interesting. The Colts, meanwhile, as I was saying earlier, at 5-6, look way better on paper than what they do, according to all the analysts and pundits and everybody else out there. They just think the Colts are trash. I don't really believe that. I think that they are closer to winning more games than they are further away to losing more games, if that made sense. I don't know if that made sense. Anyway, the Colts are currently holding on to second place in the AFC South. If you don't think for 1 minute that they're not going to come into this game tomorrow at their house and be ready to play some ball because they are so close to still capitalizing a bid in their own division, you'd be wrong. You would absolutely be wrong. I think that they're coming to play. The season is not over for the Colts. They have an opportunity. They absolutely have an opportunity. So the Colts have very much had an up and down season. I get it. But they knocked off Aaron Rodgers in the New York Jets last week, 28-27. Prior to that, they lost 3 straight games. In week 8, against Houston, Richardson, who's only in his second NFL season, he's barely played, pulled himself out of that game, right? We all kind of looking at this like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what do? You don't just pull yourself out of a game. Said he was out of breath. And then he was benched for a couple of weeks. And then he comes back and he takes the Jets out. So they're not out of this at all. Matter of fact, I don't know if I already mentioned this, but when you go back and look at what the Colts have done this season, narrowly beating or narrowly losing to, to all of these other teams by, less than 3 points or 7 points or 10 points. They've also had some pretty good, some pretty good upsets, like the Jets or the Steelers or the Chiefs a few years ago. They've had some really good teams that they've knocked off. So don't expect them to just lay down for the Lions at all. Let me recap a couple of things Anthony Richardson has done since returning to the starting lineup here. He completed 18 of 23 pass attempts from inside the pocket for a season high 256 yards and 1 TD. His highest completion percentage, 78.3%, in completion percentage above expected. Look, I get it. I've even said that, Anthony Richardson is not the greatest in short, intermediate routes for whatever reason. I mean, he's throwing it to left field. I mean, he could even hit a broadside of a barn half the time is what it looks like. But downfield, deeper shots, if their receiver is open even a little bit, this dude can sit back on his back foot, flick a wrist, and launch the ball 70 yards. There's no other quarterback that throws the ball as hard or as deep as Richardson does. And he's very accurate. And that's the scary part. He is more accurate way downfield than he is in the shorter intermediate stuff. So if the Lions are going to be without Terry and Arnold potentially, and I'm not sure that Emmanuel Mosley is going to get in, but if Carlton Davis or Amik Robertson or anybody else that is in this game allows these receivers to get beyond them, Richardson is going to hurt you. And he could throw for some long TDs. So Lions need to pay attention to that. They cannot let these guys get behind him at all. Richardson has really struggled from passing inside the pocket prior to week 11, though. So it kind of shows you that week 11 was an anomaly. It wasn't what he normally does. He was recording just a 47.4% completion percentage prior to week 11. So what we saw in week 11 was not Richardson. It might have been a growth moment. He had a couple of weeks that he was benched. He had some time to learn, and maybe it started to click. We'll find out tomorrow. Now, Richardson has been struggling, as a quarterback in this league in the pass game, but let's just not let the stats fool us too much, right? He is more accurate, and I'm going to repeat myself here. He is more accurate in the deep game than he is in the short game. And that really does concern me for Josh Downs, because if Josh Downs, hell, even Alec Pierce, if he gets behind our defense, he can make some plays. Josh Downs can absolutely hurt a defense. Other than that, I feel the Lions will be able to keep Richardson in check. I don't think that Richardson is going to get a ton of yards on the ground. I'm really hoping that the Lions are going to have a bigger defensive front in, because I don't know too many guys that want to take on Richardson one-on-one, in the backfield. I definitely don't want to see any of our guys getting hurt trying to take and tackle Richardson one-on-one in open field. They've got to hive this guy. They've got to get multiple hats on the ball to tear this guy down, because you take Richardson one-on-one, more than likely you're going to come up with something hurting. Dan Campbell had this to say about Richardson. He said, running quarterback, and they're using him a lot more in that regard. And so do you want to go nickel? Do you want to go base? Do we need 3 linebackers? We have to answer all of these things. I know this. Jack and Rodrigo are going to play a lot for us. And then it's a matter of if it's by committee, or if you're using 3 linebackers, are we using a DB? It's just hard to say right now. I think what he's saying here, and when he said that, that those 2 linebackers, Jack and Rodrigo, are going to play a lot for us, I'm seeing 5-2-4. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing 5 big guys up front, 2 linebackers, and 4 DBs in on just about every play. It makes more sense to me to have 5 big guys in, shut down the run, right? You got 2 linebackers that can go from side to side, but shut down the run. And then you got bigger guys up front that can get to Richardson and hopefully shut him down in the flats, is where I'm expecting it to go down. A couple of notable performances for Richardson, though. Now, Texans, this was the October 27th game. Houston, their defense intercepted Richardson once and hurried and harassed him all game. However, the Colts had a chance, and Indianapolis got the ball back pretty late in the game, but Richardson was sacked again by Hunter and fumbled on the last play to end the game. He did that before he could kind of get that, desperation pass off, if you will. Richardson was 10 of 32 in this game for 175 yards. This was just a month ago. He had 1 touchdown, and this was his 2nd game back after missing 3 full games with an injured right hip. He was sacked 5 times and hit another 8 times. So looking at what the Texans did would tell you how you can have success against this offensive line and how you can have success against Richardson. And I did see a lot more 5-man fronts in that game. September 8th, so going all the way back to the opener, again, against the Texans, Richardson really gave them a chance late in this game. He had 2 TD passes of more than 50 yards. And he did also have a very powerful 3-yard run for a TD with about 2 minutes and 15 seconds left to play in the game. But it was Indianapolis's defense that just couldn't get the ball back to the offense to give them another shot. Otherwise, Richardson was hot towards the end of this game. I mean, he was real hot. He was ready to go. So what does this tell us? Well, this tells us again what I was saying a minute ago. If you give him a window and he flicks that ball downfield, he's going to hurt you. You're going to get deep TDs thrown against you all day long. I guess where I'm really going with all this, though, is that we just can't count Richardson out. We can't. He's too good. He's too big. He's too strong. He's really accurate downfield. But on the other side, if you flip the coin, he's a giant unknown. You just don't know who's going to show up. He has the arm. Yes, he isn't the most accurate passer under 12 yards. He's by far in the deep shots. By far, he's better in the deep shots. If the Lions DBs get caught playing bend but don't break in this game, And if they're playing more single high safety in this game, we're going to get beat. And we're going to get beat deep. And I fear that Richardson is going to find downs downfield for a couple of shots. I really hope that I'm wrong, but if we see single high safety in this game, I think we're in trouble. I'm not going to discredit AG. The dude's a genius. He knows what he's doing. But just watching how the Lions have played this season with single high safety hasn't always benefited us. Next up, I think that I'm going to talk about Jonathan Taylor for just a moment here. The Colts are going to be highlighting Jonathan Taylor in this game as much as they can. He's been averaging 4.5 yards per carry, 5 TDs on the ground, 2.86 yards after contact, leading to 34 first downs for the Colts. He does average 3 pass targets per game. He catches 62% of those, 8.5 yards per catch, but also 0 TDs through the air so far this season. In the pass game, though, the Colts' main weapon is Josh Downs. He's averaging 7.8 targets per game, 74% catch rate, 11 yards per catch, and 4 TDs on the season. He's primarily been lining up in the slot, though. He's a very shifty route runner. He excels at creating separation, definitely has great hands, and very dangerous after the catch, promoting a lot of yak yards on every ball that he gets. Weaknesses, though, he's a smaller frame wide receiver. He can get out-muscled by physical corners, which I tend to think the Lions do have. I just want to see him utilize it. I want to see them getting up in these guys' face on the line, jamming them off the line, and then getting them off their timing. You do that against this team, Richardson is not going to know what to do other than try to run. The minute he doesn't have an option, I think that the Lions should be able to get in on Richardson and get some sacks this game if we can bump these guys off the line. Lions matchup. Likely to see a lot of Amik Robertson in this game if we're in nickel. And Terrion Arnold, if he doesn't play, I don't know what's going to happen. But if he does play, I think that you're going to see a lot of downs in Terrion Arnold when we're in man. This could be a favorable matchup for the Lions, as Amik is very physical. Downs tends to use his quickness to his advantage. It's an aggressive style of play. For both the Lions, and the Colts, they're both aggressive, but I think that the Lions' aggressive style of play is going to benefit us in this one. Second receiver for the Colts is Michael Pittman Jr., and I say second because Downs has really taken over the first receiver spot for the Colts this season. He's been getting the lion's share of targets the last several weeks. Now, he's averaging 6 targets per game, 57% catch rate, and 12 yards per catch, and he only has 2 TDs on the season. So not a great season for Michael Pittman. Now, he aligns generally out at the X receiver spot, outside guy. He's a big guy. Size and strength are his keys to the game. Contested catch ability. He's a reliable possession receiver. His weaknesses, though, are elite speed. He can struggle to really get separation, especially against top corners. And Carlton Davis, look, this guy's been playing really well this season. I expect to see a lot of Carlton Davis on Pittman this weekend. Now, injury concerns. Pittman does have some back issues, and he's had some calf issues. And I think his back is still bothering him right now, if I read that correctly the other day. I do expect, again, in this matchup, Lions to put Carlton Davis over top. This will be a tough matchup. Davis does have a broken thumb right now that he's battling through. However, Pittman really just hasn't shown a whole lot of flash this season. Maybe he does this game. I don't know. But Davis just has been playing at an elite level prior to the broken thumb. So we'll see how that affects him in this game. Now, thankfully, to end this episode here, the Lions are outscoring their opponents by more than 2 touchdowns per game. They boast the league's best 159-point differential. And as a snapshot of their dominance, the Lions have 3 wins by 38 points or more. No team in NFL history has had more than that. So I'm super excited about this matchup. I think the Lions are going to do great things. I absolutely believe that the Lions can hold these guys. Against the Colts defense, we've seen Joe Mixon run for 159 yards on 30 touches. We've seen Versus the Jets, they connected with Alec Pierce for 39 yards and then Josh Downs for 17 yards to put the ball at the 10-yard line. Then 3 plays later, Richardson took off and ran the ball into the end zone. So you have to worry about the run pass option in this game. It's there, and it's there for a big guy like Richardson to get into the end zone. Then you've got running back, Jonathan Taylor, and there's a lot of things that he can do in this game as well. Whether or not the Lions can show up and shut down is the question. I'm going to highlight a few players here and what they did. So tight ends, Cole Kmet put up 97 yards in a TD against this defense. Dalton Schultz put up 52 yards, no TDs. Freiermuth from the Steelers put up 57 yards in a TD. Oliver from the Vikings put up 58 yards in a TD. So their tight ends against this team, the Colts, have had success. I expect, especially if you're a betting person, bet at your own risk, Sam Laporta should have a pretty good game. And like I said earlier, the running backs, Mixon, 159 yards. Jacobs, 151. Bigsby, 101. Pollard, 93. Devin Achane, 77. Joe Mixon again, 102. The only one that had a bad game, Najee Harris. He had 19 yards, but he put up 54 in the receiving game. So more than half the games that the Colts have had this season, running backs are putting up more than 100 yards. I don't see that there's any reason why the Detroit Lions can't do the same. So that's it for this episode of the Lions versus the Colts on the road in this Week 12 showdown down in Indianapolis. And I was trying to make the game. It's not going to happen. But we'll see you guys all in the next one next week. We'll look forward to covering the game tomorrow. Join us for the live game play-by-play and post-game thoughts. And then, of course, we'll get right back to it with the Rise and Grind Morning Show on Monday morning. Hey, if you guys haven't subscribed to this channel, please do it right now. Smash that subscribe button. Toggle on notifications so that we can give you a mini helmet when we hit 500 subscribers. Some lucky subscriber that joins our pop-up live will win that mini helmet. It could be tonight. It could be tomorrow. It could be at any point throughout the season. But join us at Rockhound Detroit Lions. We'd love to have you. Go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. We'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.